Hello, Fresno. This is We Are Change Fresno on the radio on 16 a.m. Conservative Talk. I'm Stuart Webb, your host, with co-host Sam Cheney, and we're going to cover some news. It's getting a little crazy. Actually, it's getting really crazy. But you know what? All we can do is deal with it. So we're going to discuss some things that are going on. Sam, you wanna open us up?
Yeah, thanks for having us on the air on 1680. It's a long time coming to get on the radio. We broadcast on Access Television, Comcast Channel 99 and Uverse 93 here in Fresno locally. And also check out our YouTube. We Are Change Fresno on YouTube. What's been going on here locally lately is concerned citizens, Defend Rural America, are fighting Agenda 21, and we need because the U.S. Forest Service is going to cut off 2 million acres of public access land. Okay, and that's going to take effect at the end of this month when they list the Yosemite frog and toad, when they list them under the Endangered Species Act. They said they continue, the federal government, the U.S. Forest Service continues to say that this endangered species listing will not affect public lands, but the government lies to us, so we have a hard time believing that. We need public support to go and give your input to the U.S. Forest Service when they're doing their plan this coming Monday night, June 16th at 5 o'clock at the downtown Holiday Inn. We need your input there from the public, or else the federal government's going to go ahead and follow the United Nations Agenda 21 plan and cut off the public access unless they hear from the public.
We need people to support this cause, because you may not think that it pertains to your situation, your little bubble that you live in, but when the government by fiat is taking 2 million acres and saying that humans cannot use them, but because of some frogs, we need to save the frogs, that's going to encroach on your little bubble eventually, okay? They're going to say that you can't have 5 acres of land in the city. You can't have 5. So people need to be concerned about this, and they need to show their support. And just because it's not directly affecting you right now, you need to see what's to come, and this will affect you. Okay, they're going to list hundreds more endangered species that they call endangered species, which could be a squirrel that runs across your lawn or lives in a tree on your property. So we need to show our support. Come to Holiday Inn and give your thoughts on how this 10-year plan how our government that we pay needs to go about implementing this plan with our ideas and with our input, not just them saying you can't use this land because of a frog.
We need your support out there. The government needs your public input, or they will follow the UN's input. And so we need you out there Monday night, June 16th at 5 o'clock at the downtown Holiday Inn. Moving on. We are broadcasting to you here from FEMA Region 9, formerly known as Fresno County. We are under a foreign enemy occupation. The global Central Banking Cartel crime syndicate has financially conquered the United States through a fraudulent International Monetary Fund corporate consolidation takeover program, the same of which they've used throughout South America and a bunch of other countries, any country that gets an IMF loan. Well over 90% of the American public is financially illiterate. They do not understand how money is created and how our monetary and tax systems operate. Yet the majority of working people who want to get ahead in this world and build a future for their families spend the majority of their time trying to earn a buck, understanding little to nothing about money or economics. We are economic slaves under the current debt-based monetary system. The public debt that has been created can mathematically never be repaid. Therefore, this debt based on fractional reserve banking monetary system has allowed the neo-robber baron class to buy or steal the world through the fraud of their fiat debt-based monetary system. We will never recover from this economic depression and become a free and prosperous nation again until we become financially and economically educated and take appropriate action, because this criminally insane debt-based monetary system can only enslave us by our own consent and through our own ignorance. During the 20th century, 160 million people were killed in war, and it was all funded by the Luciferian, Satan-worshipping, all-seeing eye, central banking cartel death cult of evil. This is a red alert. A red alert. We are under chemical, economic, psychological, biological, and genetic attack by the scientific dictatorship of technocratic social engineers like the sitting White House science czar John P. Holdren, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Edward Bernays, Bertrand Russell, Aldous Huxley, and countless others. The air is being sprayed in a giant geoengineering program with heavy metals, aluminum, barium, and strontium. Fluoride, a neurotoxin proven to reduce children's IQ, and other toxic substances are being added to the water supply. The food and animals are being genetically modified. The television is a mind control program. The smart grid, smart meter, is an Agenda 21 depopulation, dehumanization program to enslave humanity. Think of the Hunger Games, the same type of scenario. During the last 20th century, government democide, that is, death by government, killed over 160 million people. We must stand now, or our children and our children's children will have no future. 6 corporations owned by the central banking cartel control the mainstream media. We, the people, are levying a public indictment against these criminals in the court of public opinion. We will not submit to this evil. Wow, Stuart, that was a whole bunch that I got out there, but that's the basis of our show, and that's why we're here doing it, because we are facing pure evil.
That's exactly right. If what you just heard, what Sam just read to you, if that scares you, if that, well, it shouldn't scare you. Well, maybe it should a little bit, but really what it should do is it should scare you into being concerned to the point where you will actually take action and not sit around acting like things aren't happening. That's just being naive. So yes, we are Change Fresno. We're gonna bring it to you. We're gonna bring. This is real. This is real radio here. Okay. You're not gonna hear this on Sean Hannity. You're not gonna hear. Sean Hannity probably has never mentioned the name Zbigniew Brzezinski, who co-founded the Trilateral Commission with David Rockefeller, and Zbigniew Brzezinski has said publicly and written in his books, but he's actually said this live on camera, that it's infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control them, and that there's a global awakening happening, and basically that we need to change that, because he's an elite globalist that doesn't like the average person being successful and prospering and being able to provide for his family. And what me and Sam talk about on this show is that we need to, as a society, we need to stop thinking that the people that run our lives, which is the government, because, I mean, they have the biggest say in how we can live our lives. That's just the way it is. We need to be more vigilant in making sure that they are serving our interests, okay? Because they're not. So we need to understand that people that are in power right now are evil. They're not stupid. They are evil, okay? And that goes for both parties. In other countries, there's many more parties than just the two that we somehow have only had here in the last 100 years, it seems. And that's how they can control us. It's so easy to control two sides of the same coin when you're, especially when the public is so distracted with Kim Kardashian's wedding photos Okay. So anyway, that's what we're going to bring to you. We're going to get into some news, but if you're not prepared to be uncomfortable for a little bit, if you're asleep and you're not prepared to be uncomfortable listening to this, you should probably turn it off. But if you want to hear some real issues, then continue listening.
Stuart, I'd say listen to our show and turn off the television.
Yeah.
So we're in a crisis here. Yesterday, the IMF and World Bank issued warnings about rising interest rates, housing crashes, and the global economy. The World Bank's chief economist is offering important advice to investors and savers when he said that now is the time to prepare for the next crisis. Here in California, we see that due to the drought, cattle ranchers are selling off over half of their cattle. They're unable to feed their cattle because there's no water, so the grass won't grow and they can't feed them. And rather than take a loss, the farmers say they've done the calculations and they need to sell now. And what that's going to cause is increased beef prices for us here. Go take a look and count back a couple months back. We've already seen the increase. Mm-hmm. And so as we go into the further depression, we never recover from 2008, as the mainstream media likes to lie and tell us with their rigged economic data. We can, as the World Bank has just announced, get ready for the next crisis.
Yeah. When the World Bank, this is the problem with central banking. When world banks are saying, "Oh, you better get ready for the next crisis," it's interesting how they know that there's going to be a crisis, and they control the monetary system, our money. They control our currency. And that's because there's no accountability. The Federal Reserve, if you don't know already, if you're listening to this station, you probably know what the Federal Reserve is. And it's a private company that is above the law, that doesn't have to answer to Congress. Okay, many politicians have actually admitted that. Ron Paul has actually stated that in his book, that they don't have to answer to Congress. So they can if they want, but most of the time they don't want to, because it's a criminal cartel. So those are the kind of people that are controlling our monetary system. And they're inflating our dollar until it's worthless. So the Federal Reserve, look it up, start doing some research. That is the company. It's not your government. There's nothing federal about it. Okay, it is a private company, and they are controlling the worth of your dollar. That you go to work every day, you work hard, but somehow prices of everything continue to rise, but you're not getting paid more. Okay, and that is the Federal Reserve inflating your dollar until it's worthless, okay? Just like Sam was covering, meat prices are going to go up because people can't afford to feed their cows now. My meal at Chipotle that I usually get on a weekly basis has gone up a full $1. The same meal that I've always gotten has gone up $1. That's ridiculous, and it's things are not getting cheaper. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. I mean, housing prices are at an all-time high, or they're in recent years, and people can't afford to buy homes. Their income, most of America's income is below $30,000 a year, so they're not able to buy houses. So anyway, yes, people need to wake up and to how our monetary system works, because the dollar is actually a Federal Reserve note that's not backed by anything. So
it's a dead instrument that was usurped by the private corporation, the Federal Reserve, in 1913. They took the power to issue currency and credit away from Congress because Congress signed into law the Federal Reserve Act. Go ahead and look that up. It's within Congress's power to remedy this situation, but they don't seem to have the political will because they're bought off, blackmailed, whatever. Yeah. They're not on the side of the American people. They are on the side of the banking cartel.
Congress could end the Fed, but they won't. That's why they're above the law.
Yeah, Stuart, it's criminal, and we learned all about it from Ron Paul. So $31.65 billion California accounting errors, higher than the GDP of Iceland and Jamaica. And this is a report from, well, we did get some good reporting out of the mainstream media here out of Sacramento, CBS News. They reported that the controller's office was audited by the Bureau of State Audits, and the audit revealed 7.7 billion understated federal trust fund revenues and expenditures, 653 million overstated general fund assets and revenues, 8 billion, that's billion with a B, overstated California State University's bond debt, 9.1 billion reporting error that understated a public building construction fund. And so they're committing at our state capitol in Sacramento accounting fraud that's bigger than some nation's national GDP. Stuart, I'm at a loss for words. But yet the governor, Jerry Brown, claims that we're in a surplus. Well, I guess if they cook the books, then they can make the numbers look any way they want.
Well, we print money like it's going out of style, okay? Do you think money is worth something if you just print $1 million? Can you print yourself into being rich, into being wealthy? No, you can't. It has no value. There's no value there. And with the high-speed rail, we've had government people on our show before saying that we're going to see the high-speed rail in 8 years. I highly doubt that, considering the original proposition for building it to start it, I believe, was around $10 billion, and now it's proposed close to $200 billion. And we have our state capital making $6 billion errors. I mean, this is ridiculous. How can we trust these people to build anything at this point and build it so that it functions correctly? And it's our money that they're spending. So we should really start being more vigilant with our politicians and our state capitals across the country, because when money is being printed like it's going out of style, clearly it's not being used correctly, and corruption is clearly taking over governments everywhere.
Well, the state controller Chang, well, in a statement issued from his office, says that all issues were corrected and identified before the final report was published, and not 1 cent of taxpayer dollars was affected. Wow, they can misplace that billions of dollars, but yet 1 cent was not affected.
Wow.
That's really hard to believe, Stuart.
Yeah. So did they ask for all the errors they made? They must have somehow got all that money back. I'm sure we can guarantee that our government got every single dollar of our taxpayer money back and used correctly. No, I don't think that's the case. I think that they can just say what they want, and I guess we're going to believe what we're going to believe, right?
It's very offensive to taxpayers. $31 billion. They're committing accounting fraud, blatant accounting fraud in our face. Okay, that's Sacramento. Moving on to the national economy. Okay, we've been hearing on all the mainstream that we've been in a recovery. The economy recovered. Well, here's 19 things that say differently. Radio Shack just announced that it is going to close an additional 200 stores on top of what has already been closed. During the first quarter of this year, reported earnings by major U.S. retailers missed, estimated by the largest margin in 13 years. 1 out of every 3 grocery store workers in the state of California is on some form of public assistance. The percentage of Americans that believe that is a good time to buy a home is at an all-time low. According to one recent survey, 52% of Americans cannot even afford the house that they're living in right now. Sadly, only 36% of American adults under the age of 35 currently own a home. That is the lowest level that has ever been recorded. According to one new study, half of all college graduates are still relying on their parents financially when they graduate for 2 years after graduation. The number of planned job cuts by U.S. employers is on the rise again. Job cuts climbed to the highest levels in more than a year as U.S.-based employers announced plans to reduce payrolls by 52,961 in May, according to a report from Challenger Gray and Christmas. Right now, 1 out of every 6 men in the prime working years 25 to 54 do not have a job. The percentage of Americans not in the labor force is still at a 36-year high. 53% of wage earners in the United States make less than $30,000. The average age of vehicles on America's roads is at all-time high, 11.4 years. According to a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter David K. Johnston, the economic recovery following the depths of the Great Depression was far superior to what we are experiencing today. The U.S. economy did not experience any economic growth during the first quarter of 2014. In fact, it actually contracted. The growth and future spending has just gone negative for the first time in about 2 years. More than 20% of all children in the United States are living in poverty, and 49 million Americans are dealing with food insecurity. Approximately 20% of all American families do not have a single member that is employed at this point. According to a recent Gallup survey, unemployment jobs represents the number one concern for U.S. voters. And finally, after adjusting for inflation, median household income in the U.S. is now about 7% lower than it was in the year 2000.
It's a lot of information to take in. You should look that up, though, and read these, and also read the linking articles to each one of these. Okay, the economy is not improving. Okay, and just on the basis alone that Barack Obama has basically stated that coal power will be gone. I mean, he will make it as hard as possible. Like he said, oh, you can start your own coal power plant. We'll just make it so expensive that we'll put you out of business. Well, most of the country is powered by coal power. And so why do you think 200 stores are closing at Radio Shack's closing 200 stores? Well, they can't afford to keep their lights on. I mean, they're going to make it with smart meters, with monopolies on energy. They're going to make it impossible for you to keep your lights on so that you can have a business and provide for yourself. We have over 100 million people in this country that are getting some sort of government assistance, okay? That's not a good sign. That's not an economic recovery, okay? I mean, look, 53% of wage earners in the United States make less than 30 grand a year. Okay, so that's basically the destruction of the middle class. Wouldn't you agree with that, Sam? I mean, it's just becoming an elite class that tells us we need to get rid of the middle class, basically, because they're greedy, and just make everyone poor. Okay, as prices rise, we make less. Okay, so this should trouble you, but it should trouble you in the sense that, hey, I should probably get my act together and start doing something about this, or else my children or grandchildren are gonna have some real problems, okay, in the near future.
Stuart, here's what one of our founding fathers had to say about the economy and central banking. It goes like this: banks have done more injury to the religion, morality, tranquility, prosperity, and even wealth of the nation than they can have done or ever will do. That's a quote by John Adams. I think that pretty much says it all.
If you can control the money, you can control everything. When you really think about it, if you condition people to, use the monetary system that you provide, and then allow yourself to counterfeit that system, because think about the Federal Reserve. Every time they print money, the public's so uninformed, and their IQ is just stifling, that they think that, oh, that's just normal. That's actually a private company counterfeiting, legally counterfeiting. And they don't have to tell you where they put the money. They can give it to select insiders, or they can do whatever they want with it. So if you control the banking, if you control the currency, you can control people's lives. So we need to get the gold standard back, or not even just the gold standard. We need to have some value behind the currency that we use, okay? Right now we're using Federal Reserve notes, okay? Every time I get a check, I am spending it on something that has physical value, that has inherent value to me, not just paper. You can burn money. So whether it be food, skills, knowledge, education, or ammo, it could be anything. But the monetary system that the Federal Reserve has us under is going to destroy. It's going to destroy our country. It is destroying our country and many countries around the world.
The Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. Every time Congress does whatever, spends money, they borrow it from the Federal Reserve at interest. That is utterly absurd because Congress has the power through the Treasury to print the money themselves and cut out the bad middleman, the Federal Reserve, who are just some corrupt bankers, corrupt international bankers. And so it's an absurdity that's been pulled on the American public for over 100 years now. And we need to wake up to this because they're getting ready to collapse the dollar. The rest of the world's rejected it. And we're going to lose our purchasing power and see our standard of living massively decreased in this country, Stuart.
Yeah, in America, really, in America, someone can work two jobs, one full-time and then one on the side, and at above minimum wage and still cannot afford to live on their own. In America, that is your purchasing power completely diminished. It is, that is not the American dream. While they're importing so-called dreamers, immigrants, and giving them entitlements by fiat, they're saying that we still live in a free country where you can work two jobs and still have to live, with your parents, or just not. Some people can't even afford to live anywhere. They're homeless and they still work. I mean, there are many people in this country that work and are homeless. So that's not the kind of America that I grew up believing in and wanting for my future, for my children.
We have a fraudulent monetary system, and that's part of the takedown of America. But what's in the news recently is all these illegal aliens coming across the border, and that's also part of the collapse of America. It's the Cloward and Piven plan. Back in the 60s, Marxists, that's communists, Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven came up with a great strategy for overloading and collapsing the democratic welfare states. And that's what we see happening. They're overwhelming the system right now with these illegal alien children, and it must be mean-spirited if I don't want them here. Well, no other country is going to take our poor, tired, and hungry masses in and give them free stuff. I was reading earlier today that the taxpayers are paying $250 a day for these immigrants, Stuart.
This has been... Every conservative radio talk show host should actually be calling for President Obama's impeachment, period. Just on that alone, not even the Bergdahl scandal. I mean, this alone, the federal government is literally ignoring one of their only things that they're supposed to carry out, which is protect our border, protect immigration, protect our borders, and have an actual process of naturalizing citizens, naturalizing immigrants, which they're not doing. And what's so funny about this whole situation is that, we can talk about this all we want, but until we are calling for the impeachment of our president, all conservatives across the nation that are on the radio need to be calling for this, because this is not a patty cake issue. We are collapsing, like Sam said, Cloward and Piven. They are bringing in a whole new generation of the welfare state to literally bankrupt this country and bankrupt the middle class. And just on that alone, I mean, we need to be. This should be the number one issue until it's dealt with. Okay, and what's so funny about this situation is that it must be pretty bad in other countries. We need to realize that we need to save our Bill of Rights and Constitution, because it must be so bad in these other countries that they're sending them to America, which is actually going to be their demise as well, because once you join the welfare class and vote to take all of our rights and not actually understand what America is, we're based off of unalienable rights, then they're not going to. It's going to be the same as the country that they came from. So that's the irony of it, is that they're not going to have what is their dream to come here and then work 2 jobs and not be able to afford to live and be a slave, because that's what this country is becoming. So and they're doing it as they come here for prosperity. They are actually creating the demise of this country. Okay, and the reason that they came is for freedom. Well, maybe it's not for freedom. Maybe they're misunderstanding why this country is great. But it's sad. But we also, our empathy we need to realize our empathy is actually being used against us. They'll call us racist, or they'll call us mean-spirited because we think that we shouldn't have to house these children that are illegally crossing the border by the thousands, and that's mainstream news. They're going to use our empathy and say that we are wrong. We are not good people if we don't support this massive welfare state and they're not even our citizens. That's the biggest issue too, is that we have veterans that need help. We have people in this country that have paid into entitlements that aren't getting what they're supposed to get. The VA scandal, our veterans aren't getting treated right. They're not getting the care they need. So we're going to treat people that illegally come into this country better than we treat our own that fought in wars to protect our freedoms. So it's I don't know, how do you even describe this?
It's mind blowing. It's criminal, Stuart. It's, the politically correct term is undocumented, which is another lie perpetrated to us from the quote left. They are documented in the country they came from. They are here illegally. There is already a structure in place to become a citizen legally. Many people have done it, and more power to those people. And that's all I ask, is that if you're going to come to this country, follow the proper procedures that are in place and don't put us in a crisis. Okay? According to the National Association of Former Border Patrol Officers, this is not a humanitarian crisis. It is a predictable, orchestrated, and contrived assault on the compassionate side of Americans by her political leaders that knowingly puts minor illegal alien children at risk for purely political purposes. And so you see the guys up there saying that, oh, boo-hoo, we need to cry and care and have a big heart. They don't care about these children. They're using them as a political tool. Okay, so they are, Stuart, I'm at a loss for words.
That's exactly right. They use our, okay, look, it's a strategy by evil people to use good people's empathy and actually prey on the weak and to use them as a political tool, a political pawn. So they're bringing in a whole new voting class to get rid of our rights, and then telling anyone that disagrees, even though it's illegal what's going on, anyone who disagrees is a racist, or anyone who disagrees doesn't care about children. When the Obama administration is releasing thousands of felons that aren't even citizens of this country. We're just releasing them. Okay, so it's unbelievable what's going on, and we need to speak out against this, and this is a serious issue, and it's going to really affect us big time, because when our own president is continually breaking the law, like it's now almost on a daily basis, or a weekly basis at least, maybe not daily, but weekly basis, he's not enforcing his own laws. He's changing laws when he wants. He's doing whatever he wants, and no one's going to prosecute him because he has a criminal administration like Eric Holder. So we need to be aware that they're using these kids. They don't care about the children. Okay, it's never about the children. If it were really about the children, they would have allowed an investigation of Newtown shooting. But no, they had to push gun control immediately. Let's disarm law-abiding citizens, and because crazy people do crazy things. That doesn't make any sense, okay? So it's very concerning, and we need this immigration issue. We need to just continue to cover it, and people need to start paying attention, because you know what, they're not only will they take your jobs, but there's not even enough jobs for them to fill. So it's just going to be more welfare class on the back of your hard work. And so if you really want to live like that, then okay, continue watching daytime television. But if you care about your future and you care about the Bill of Rights and Constitution, you need to stand up and start speaking out. Call out your national radio hosts. Tell them they need to call for the impeachment process now, and until he's impeached, until there's action.
The Obama administration and the federal government are implementing the Marxist Cloward and Pliven plan right now. Back here at home in California, California policies make it attractive for illegal immigrants to relocate to this state. The incentives to come to the United States are many. Currently, the U.S. government and states have been legislated to provide food, shelter, health care, education, free child care, and free legal services to illegal immigrants. There's no other country in the world that you can illegally immigrate to, and they will provide you such public services.
They've used America, they've used our prosperity and our morality, and they've twisted it on us to basically police the world and basically fund our demise. Okay, so we need to wake up to that. And I mean, the United States. Think about it. How are we able to even still function right now with our welfare class and our illegal immigration class that we provide for? Okay, it's because we were we had so much prosperity that now they're finally getting us ready for the actual collapse that they are engineering. But it's also because we're not being vigilant, and we need to wake up and start doing something about it to regain our country. But no other country, like Sam said, no other country is it. Like if we went to Mexico and just asked them, hey, you know, I need a house, I need a car, I need free food, and you know what, I need some new clothes, and you know what, also, I need a job as well to go along with that, and I need a lavish lifestyle. That is ridiculous, and they would laugh in your face, okay? And we need to understand that people are coming to this country because they think it's different from these other countries, that they're in extreme poverty. So let's stand up and show them. Let's show these people what we're really about, and that's the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And so I don't know. It gets crazier and crazier every day. We got our president breaking the law weekly, and no one's really doing anything about it. John McCain, and I'll continue to say this. John McCain said, "Well, what are we supposed to do? Impeach him?" Yes, John McCain. That's what you were elected to do, is to impeach a president that's breaking the law. But the thing is, John McCain's a criminal as well. So I mean, of course he doesn't want to cause problems for the same team. You know, Sam.
Congress doesn't have the political will, and we need to see more grassroots efforts like the candidate that defeated Cantor over there in Virginia.
It's Dave Bratt, I believe.
Yeah, we need to see more efforts like that around the country and get all these career politicians out there because they're selling America out. I'm going to jump ahead now to another part of the collapse is this whole gun control agenda. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms, using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with their Second Amendment. That's from Behold a Pale Horse, a book published by Bill Cooper in 1991. And so, does that sound like what's happening today?
The gun control argument is that there is no argument, okay? The right to self-defense is it's given to you by your creator. Everyone has the right to self-defense, period. Okay, and when Obama's saying that we need Australian-style measures, which is basically ban all guns, basically is what he's saying, and that'll do it by executive order, pretty much. We need to really understand that they're going to continue to. It's not a conspiracy anymore, okay? And also, where are the Republicans at? I thought they were, Second Amendment supporters. I thought Democrats were too. Don't you support the Second Amendment? We need to get people out of Congress that don't support the Constitution, period. Okay? And the Constitution's not a living document. If it's a living document, it's actually a dead document, as Ron Paul would say.
The only thing holding back the criminals that want to collapse America, the New World Order, the only thing holding them back is America's Second Amendment right now.
They're scared. I honestly think they know that they didn't get their agenda through, Sam. They for the last 4 years, over 100 million guns have been bought. Okay? And that includes myself. I've bought 2 guns in the last 4 years. And I've learned how to shoot safely and exercise my Second Amendment, which God gave to me. So, and millions of Americans have done the same. So they're going to try. They're going to try, but really they better be prepared. And they are gearing up. We know that with, every federal administration or every federal department buying thousands of rounds of ammo. Department of Education, what? Social Security Administration, what? Thousands of rounds are buying? Yeah, they're preparing for a collapse because they know that they cannot take our rights away if we don't let them, if that makes sense.
The federal government, all these agencies are buying. They've bought over 2 billion rounds of ammunition within the last couple of years. They're training local law enforcement, military. They are militarizing local law enforcement, the federal government across this country. This recent Las Vegas shooting, a couple weeks before that, the Las Vegas Police Department was doing training exercises, which coincide always with a false flag terrorist attack, training that they need to be aware of sovereign citizens as domestic terrorists. And just before this, we saw Harry Reid say that anybody at the Bundy Ranch situation, or just anybody in general that says that the federal government's wrong, is a domestic terrorist. And so we see this false scripting. They've said that the Tea Party is going to go ahead and attack. All this, the Tea Party is going to join up with Al-Qaeda and become white Al-Qaeda and attack. And that somehow gun owners are responsible for psychos going out on these shooting sprees. Whether it's staged or not, whether they're government patsies set up by the CIA or not, it doesn't matter. That's an individual's action with an inanimate object, whether it's their fist, a knife, whatever. If somebody wants to go do a violent public act, they're going to do it. And so we already have the legislation in place to control guns. Felons are not allowed to own firearms in this country, folks. Criminals are not going to follow the law anyway, okay? And so all this gun legislation that's coming down now from our great senators in the state, Feinstein and Boxer, notice how as soon as a big hyped public shooting happens, that the mainstream media pushes the narrative that it's we have to have more gun control. Guess what's sitting right there on the shelf? The legislation.
Yeah, and they're going to use these shootings to push gun control, obviously, but they're also going to use it to limit our freedom of speech, because they're trying to blame people for what all these shooters are doing. They're actually, one of the victims' fathers of the Elliot Rodgers shooting actually blamed politicians blamed them, and the NRA by name blamed them for the shooter shooting people and stabbing people. His
son wasn't a member of the NRA.
Exactly. So how was the NRA, really, why not just name me by name and say that I actually, because I own a gun, I caused this crazy college kid that is a narcissist to kill people. So it's now my fault because I own a gun. That makes no sense. And also, the reason I say that they will use it to limit our freedom of speech is because if you If someone, let's say for instance, Alex Jones, they're trying to connect this Las Vegas shooter to Alex Jones because the guy liked his Facebook page. Well, he also liked Ronald Reagan's Facebook page. So does Ronald Reagan now responsible for all those deaths of the police officers? It'd be interesting to ask, do we blame Reagan, even though he's dead? Do we blame Reagan for those deaths because the person that shot him liked him on his Facebook page? That really, it's mind control, and it's 1984 thought crime. That's what it is. Really, is that if you even think about telling someone your opinion, they might go do something bad, and because you talk to them and possibly influence them to think a certain way, that you are now responsible. It's thought crime, and I'm not going to live in a country where freedom of speech is not allowed, and also where people are blamed for other people's actions. Okay.
Our great senators in this state have introduced a legislation called the Pause for Safety Act, which will allow families and others to seek gun violence prevention order in court. The order will allow police to confiscate firearms from people who have not committed a crime and may not necessarily even pose a threat. And so it's very Orwellian. They're bringing in a thought crime here. Someone could just simply disagree with you, and then as their solution to that problem is go ahead and call the police and say that you had a bad thought, and then that could go bring a raid on you. And if this legislation, the Pause for Safety Act, is passed.
Pause for safety. How about pause for insanity? Pause for insanity, and pause for corrupt politicians that are trying to take your rights. Feinstein is, I believe, she's a great shot, apparently. I mean, and she's pushing these measures, to and Boxer, is it Barbara Boxer?
Both of them.
Both of them. I think you can't get near them without security kind of ushering you away. So if you have an IQ, if you see the hypocrisy in that alone, you should just honestly just disregard anything they say, because that doesn't make any sense at all. Pause for safety. No, pause for insanity. Pause for authoritarianism. How about that? That's what they should call the bill. Okay?
They don't care about the public safety. They're otherworldly hypocrites. They walk around with an army of heavily armed guards everywhere they go, but yet they want the public to be disarmed and not be able to defend ourselves. California is one of the worst about it. Here is some recent legislation that, after the Santa Barbara shooting, has been introduced that we need to keep our eye on. SB 53, introduced by De Leon. It's a new ban on ammo sales, licensing, and registration. SB 808 criminalizes home-built firearms without serial numbers. That's another De Leon. AB 1598 by Rodriguez, law enforcement training mandate that lacks provision for concealed weapons carriers. And then another one by Alejo, AB 1609, new firearms crimes. And so those are all recent legislation introduced in California here to continue the assault on gun owners, Stuart.
If you research De Leon and the speeches he's given on gun control and all these measures that he's tried to push, he is a moron, and also he's an authoritarian too. And some people might think he's well-meaning, but he's either got a screw loose or he's a moron, because he actually said that I guess California is one of the best legislatures in the nation. I mean, that alone right there. Are you insane? I mean, we have the biggest welfare class in the country, and it's the most expensive place to live, aside from maybe New York and Chicago, certain areas. And we're collapsing, and then they're trying to push high-speed rail. Let's take away everyone's guns, bankrupt us, give us a high-speed rail. What, we're supposed to be excited about that? When are we going to see that? Probably never. And we'll probably never use it. And that's part of Agenda 21 too. But these politicians that are pushing these gun control measures, I sometimes I want to think that they're actually well-meaning idiots, but you know, it takes a little bit to actually get elected, and it takes some sort of competency to be able to make laws that affect the public's life, to affect my life. So he's probably he's an authoritarian, and he's trying to take away my right to defend myself. It's unbelievable, and I'm not going to stop calling him out, and all these politicians. I'm not going to stop, because they represent me, and we pay for them to be there. So you have no excuse. And you're trying to, and Feinstein introduces bills trying to limit my freedom of speech. Well, okay, that's not going to happen. And we pay for you to be there. Okay. And when this all goes down, dollars are going to be worthless. You're not going to be able to get out of this either. You think you're just going to be able to live lavishly while everything collapses? No, not going to happen.
Operation Gladio was an operation of leaving behind right-wing type people after World War II all over Europe. And their purpose for staying behind was supposedly to fight the Soviets in case they went into Europe. Well, what they wound up doing was staging a bunch of false flag attacks all over Europe and staging their political enemies, the left wing over there. And so we see it's on record. It was sponsored by the United States and NATO. And we see, like I read from Behold a Pale Horse, that was published in 91. They're doing the same thing here, folks. Look up Operation Gladio. Look up Operation Northwoods. Okay, that's a CIA declassified document where it talks all about how they're going to go shoot up shopping malls, shoot up public schools, and do all these acts of public violence, bomb federal buildings. It's a false flag operation by shadow elements within our own government. That's where all this public violence is coming from.
Only a normal human instinct would, if you're feeling unsafe, don't ask someone else to make you safe. Make yourself safe. Go defend yourself. So when these shootings happen, instead of giving away, just basically pawning your rights away over to the government because you want to be safe, is moronic, and it's immoral for you to do that. You need to, if you want to control your own destiny, if you don't want to be a slave, you can't give your rights away to the government in search of security. If you want to live in a free country, and that's what this country was founded on, and that's why it became so great, then you can't have security. But when you have freedom, there is more security, okay? But if you give up your liberties for security, you will receive neither. So you can't, no one is going to protect yourself better than yourself, okay?
They want to disarm the American public when they arm the Mexican drug cartels in another false flag against the Second Amendment, Operation Fast and Furious. And so the otherworldly hypocrisy as we continue, I mean, the corruption it's out of this world, and they're going to continue to do these false flag public violence acts.
Yeah.
And we need to continue to expose them and continue to ask questions and find a real solution to this public violence, which is not gun control.
Yeah, not at all. And just think about this. If a bombing happened in a city, you're really going to give up your rights for security? And you think that that's going to work? You're going to ask for military on the streets because of a shooting, because of a bombing? We need to, if we want freedom, if we want the Bill of Rights, if you don't want freedom, okay, Miley Cyrus, read about her on the internet and spend your time watching music videos, okay? But if you want freedom, you need to learn how to defend yourself, learn your rights, know your rights, and you can't be scared of freedom, okay? If you want freedom. You can't be scared, and it's not guaranteed that you will be secure in a free country, okay? It's just how it is. So they're going to, and not saying that every one of these shootings is a staged false flag, but they're obviously using, remember Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste, okay? So they're obviously using it to their advantage, okay? And gun control only benefits the government. It doesn't benefit citizens in any way. It does not make them safer, period.
The government can't and won't protect you. And whether these public outbreaks of violence are staged or not, there's a lot of evidence that this is the plan to take away the America's Second Amendment. But regardless of that, the fact remains that the federal government is in an all-out war, like we've explained this whole show to you, against the American people. The CIA and NATO fund Al-Qaeda. They funded them in Syria. They continue to fund, train, and command them. And guess who just took Iraq back? That's right, a spinoff of Al-Qaeda, ISIS. And so it's so absurd because now the Iraq is calling for the U.S. to go ahead and bomb them with unmanned drones or manned drones. And so we're going to get back into the Iraq war, or I'm sorry, kinetic support is what they're calling, another Orwellian term. When you go and kill people, it's called a war.
Yeah.
It's absurd. We're funding both sides now, and so Al-Qaeda is the best enemy that money can buy.
We funded the rebels in Syria, and they were Al-Qaeda, 60% Al-Qaeda, and now Al-Qaeda is taking back Iraq, which where we never really left, but Barack Obama wanted to fulfill his promise, I guess, to get out of Iraq. So we did, even though there's independent contractors there that we know are American. So, but now we have to go fight Al-Qaeda again, but I thought we were just funding them. And also, I thought we needed to give up our rights to bear arms, remember? And also, I thought we didn't care about the veterans anymore. So while they do not take care of their veterans, they don't take care of their current troops, they're asking us now to send our troops to go fight Al-Qaeda again, which our government actually has funded. So it's Orwellian, and we just need to say no. Period. And there's just so many things wrong with that. What's going on with Iraq and the Middle East, with us being there in general, it's not justified, and we need to say no.
We need to bring our troops home to protect us against the central bank and the criminal federal government and the Obama administration. They're the ones who I see the imminent threat from.
Secure the border.
Secure the border. I mean, that's where the threat's coming from. How many terrorists can just walk right across the border if that's the real threat? If they're really concerned about terrorists and this war on terror, which has been proven to be a fraud because we fund Al-Qaeda. It's on record. Wow, Stuart, it's just it's overwhelming, the Orwellian nature of our government now, and the mainstream media that props up all the lies.
It's going to get crazier and crazier. But guess what? We're here. We're fighting the info war, and you should do the same. There's lots of outlets where you can start letting people know what's going on and waking people up. And we at We Are Change Fresno are doing that on 1680 AM and on our YouTube channel. You can go to We Are Change Fresno TV on YouTube. Also, I have a YouTube channel, Stuart Webb for Liberty. You can visit that. We all have Twitter accounts, and we're here to fight the info war before the real war starts. I mean, you have to be willing to fight in the info war before you have to actually defend yourself and go to real war. So, thanks for listening, and you'll hear us on Sunday nights, 8 to 9 for the next 8 weeks. Sam?
The federal government is pushing hard and heavy to start a civil war with the American people. They've done the pre-scripting in dramas. Look at your television shows, trying to frame patriotic Americans, God-loving Americans as being terrorists. It's a flat-out lie, and we need to stand up and say no against the criminals in the central bank and the federal government and the Obama administration. Peace, love, and liberty.
Good night.